Video lesson, comprehension, English, class 5. From Unit 1, The World in a Wall. Our lesson is based on comprehension and vocabulary. You need New Oxford Modern English Book 5. We would be working on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Now, time required would be approximately 70 minutes, and you would be needing your textbooks, notebooks, pencils, sharpeners, erasers, etc. Maybe you would be needing dictionaries as well, so keep them handy also. So let's get started. By the end of today's lesson, we should be able to identify the main series of events of the story, The World in a Wall, pick out the descriptive phrases about scorpions, recognize the meanings of difficult words, differentiate between the predator and prey, and answer the given questions of comprehension. So let's get started. Now, before we start with the actual reading of the story, let's talk about a few things. Name the scariest creature that you have come across. Tell me why that creature scares you so much. Have you ever owned an actual pet? If yes, then what was it and what was it like keeping a pet? So think about it and tell me answers of these 4 questions. Wow, some of you have owned some really great pets. Now, before we move on, let's look at the title of the story, and that is The World in a Wall. Now look at this title and look at the pictures on the page numbers 3 and 4 in your books and also on this video, and try to guess what the story might be about. Now remember, your guess doesn't have to be 100% correct. You can think about it and guess and tell. We will see whether our guesses are correct or not. Now, before we start reading the story, it is important to know who is the writer of the story. It is always important to know the writer, but this time around it is especially important because the writer is telling about his own experience as a person as a child, when he used to love animals and he used to bring the strange animals home. So Gerald Durrell was an Englishman, and he was born in 1925 and he died in 1995. He was a naturalist, zookeeper, conservationist, because he used to preserve wildlife. He was an author and a television presenter. And he was famous for writing his book, which was about his own experience as an animal collector and an enthusiast. He was very enthusiastic about keeping animals, preserving them, and taking care of them. Now, you must have seen something else in your science books. So let's relate to that as well before we start reading the story. What is a predator and what is a prey? Yes, a prey is what is eaten by the predator. And predator is the hunter that hunts, and its hunt, that the food that it eats, is called the prey. Now there is a whole food cycle that you might study in science, in which the grass is eaten by the mouse, and the mouse is eaten by the snake, and the snake is eaten by the hawk. So the mouse is the prey of the snake, and the snake is the prey of the hawk, and the hawk is the predator of the snake, and the snake is the predator of the mouse. So that's the circle of life. Now, before we start reading the story, we must understand what sort of vocabulary would be there in the story. So now, let's look at these words and try to find their meanings as well. Or rather, learn their meanings as well, so that it is easy for us to understand it while we are reading it. Bulbous, fat, bulging, round, shaped like a bulb. It's even evident from the word. Bulging, swelling outwards. Confetti, small pieces of colored paper traditionally thrown on the birthdays, marriage ceremonies, etc. Dawdling, being very slow. Enraptured, extremely pleased by. Infinite, limitless, impossible to measure. Intricate, extremely detailed and complicated. Something that is very difficult to understand. It has so many minute details in it. Oblivious, unaware, phobia, an extreme fear of something. Predator, an animal that hunts or kills another animal for food. Quashed, rejected, and stopped. Rapidly, moving or reacting with great speed. Reluctantly, with hesitation, or unwillingly. Repercussions, an unintended, unwelcome consequence of an event or action. Rotund, large and plump. Scuttled, ran with quick, hasty speed. Now students, I will be reading the passage, or at least some part of the passage for you, and while I am reading, I want you to look for the answers of these questions. What did the outer skin of the brick wall look like? What simile is used to describe the cracks in the wall? Remember what a simile is? Simile is when two things are compared with the help of as and like. List the groups of inhabitants of the wall were divided into. Which were the most favorite characters or creatures of the author and why? Now, I will be reading the extract and you have to listen to it carefully so you can find out the answers of the questions that I have asked. The extract is from the autobiography My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Durrell. Durrell is an expert in studying animals. When he was 10 years old, Durrell, his older siblings, his mother, moved to Corfu in Greece to live with Durrell's grown-up brother Larry. It was here that Durrell began to collect and keep animals as pets. Now let's read the actual extract. Now pay attention. The crumbling wall that surrounded the garden alongside the house was a rich hunting ground for me. It was an ancient brick wall that had been plastered over, but now this outer skin was green with moss, bulging and sagging with the damp of many winters. The whole surface was an intricate map of cracks, some several inches wide, others as fine as hairs. Here and there, large pieces had dropped off and revealed the rows of rose-pink bricks lying beneath. The inhabitants of the wall were a mixed lot. They were divided into day and night hunters, the hunters and the hunted. At night, toads and geckos were the hunters. The prey was a population of stupid, absent-minded crane flies, moths of all shapes and sizes, and rotund beetles hurrying with their night's work. By day, it was difficult to tell the difference between the prey and the predator. Everything seemed to feed off everything else. The hunting wasps searched out the caterpillars and spiders. The spiders hunted for flies. The dragonflies fed off the spiders and the flies. And the swift, multicolored wall lizards fed off everything. But my favorites were the shyest members of the wall community, who did not seek any attention. They were also the most dangerous. You hardly ever saw one unless you looked for it. Yet there must have been several hundreds living in the cracks of the wall. If you gently lifted a piece of loose plaster away from the brick, there, crouching beneath it, would be a little black scorpion, an inch long, looking as though he were made out of polished chocolate. Now guys, after listening to the passage, I hope you found out the answers of the questions that I asked. So let's see whether you are able to give me the answers or not. What did the outer skin of the brick wall look like? Yes, very good. The outer skin of the wall looked like it was covered with green moss. It was bulging and sagging with damp of many winters. What simile is used to describe the cracks in the wall? Yes, the simile used is as fine as hair. The cracks were so thin that they were as thin as hair. Well done. List the groups the inhabitants of the wall were divided into. Excellent work. The groups the inhabitants were divided into were two: day and night workers, and the hunters and the hunted. Well done. Which were the most favorite creatures of the author and why? The most favorite creatures of the author were the scorpions, because they were the shyest creatures there and they were all the time hiding. That's why the writer had a special love for them, even though he does say that they were the most dangerous creatures over there as well, because spiders can be the scorpions can be poisonous as well. My dear students, it is again time to listen to a little bit more of the story. Now listen to the descriptive phrases very carefully that are used to describe the scorpion. You will be needing them later on when you do some work as well. Also, where did the author put the family of the scorpions? And have you actually forgotten about something like this? The way the author forgot after putting the scorpions? And what happened after that? So you have to tell me as well. Now let's read some more of the story. They were weird looking things with their flattened oval bodies, their neat crooked legs, the enormous crab-like claws, bulbous and neatly jointed as armor, and the tail like a string of brown beads ending in a string like a rose thorn. The scorpion would lie there quite quietly as you examined him, only raising his tail as a warning sign if you breathed too hard on him. Then, one day, I found a fat female scorpion in the wall wearing what at first glance appeared to be a pale fawn fur coat. Closer inspection proved that this strange garment was made up of a mass of tiny babies clinging to the mother's back. I was enraptured by this family, and I made up my mind to smuggle them into the house and up to my bedroom so that I might keep them and watch them grow up. With infinite care, I moved the mother and the family into a matchbox and then hurried to the villa. It was rather unfortunate that just as I entered the door, lunch should be served. However, I placed the match carefully on the mantelpiece in the drawing room and made my way to the dining room and joined the family for the meal. Dawdling over my food, feeding Roger surreptitiously under the table and listening to the family arguing, I completely forgot about my exciting new captures. Well, the writer forgot about his scorpions. Also, let's see how the writer has described the scorpions well in this page. See the flattened oval bodies and their neat crooked legs and enormous crab-like claws. All this is the description of the scorpions. Now, did you find the descriptive phrases used to describe the scorpions? I even told you myself as well that the scorpions were having bulging claws and thick armor. So now it is your turn to tell your teacher what the scorpion actually looked like. Where did the author put the family of scorpions? The author put the family of scorpions in the drawing room and completely forgot about it. Have you ever forgotten about something like this when you were a child? Yes, you might have forgotten about it. Well, we all forget it sometimes. Now students, your teacher will turn-wise assign different parts of the stories to you to read. From page number 3. Now you have to pay close attention and read with expression and have fun. Now remember, you are looking for certain answers again. What simile is used to describe the scattering babies of the scorpions? What has caused the pandemonium? Pandemonium means chaos and all the confusion. What did happen to Larry after this accident? What did the mother decide in order to stop the author from running wild? Was the incident with the family of Spike funny? Now narrate the incident at the end in your own words. Now, let's see whether you found out the answers of the given questions or not. What simile is used to describe the scattering babies of the scorpions? Yes, they were scattered like confetti. That is the simile that is used. What caused the pandemonium? Pandemonium means chaos and all the confusion. The confusion and pandemonium was caused when the scorpions were running around everywhere and everybody was scared of them. What happened to Larry after this incident? Larry, after this incident, started being scared of the matchboxes. He developed an irrational fear of the matchboxes. What did the mother decide in order to stop the author from running wild? The mother decided that she is going to put him to some certain work before, otherwise he would be having too much free time on his hand and he would be creating problems for everyone. So she decided that she would be sending him to some place for some more education and she would be getting him a tutor. Now, was the incident funny? You have to tell your teacher whether you found the incident funny or not. And tell the story of this whole incident in your own words. Remember, in your own words. Now guys, after reading the whole story and answering all my questions, it means you can answer another one of my questions as well. Explain who the following characters are and find information about them or about what happens to them in the text. You have to tell me who Larry was and who Roger was. Think about it. I will wait for your answer. You can pause the video over here. Write the answer somewhere and then check whether your answer is correct or not. Yes, Larry was Gerald's older brother and he talks a lot and he's an adult and he smokes. And he thinks that Gerald's matchbox is full of matches. But when he touches the matchbox, it is full of scorpions and he flings his arms out, getting scared of them. He doesn't share Gerald's love of animals. And the shock of the incident makes him so scared of the matches that he never touches a matchbox for the rest of his life. Now Roger, who was Roger? Yes, Roger was pet dog and companion of Gerald. Gerald used to feed him at meal times even though he was never allowed to do so. Roger barks wildly when the incident happens, which adds a little bit more confusion to the whole confusing situation. Now, you have to open your Oxford English textbooks and complete page number 6, exercise A, question number 1 from part F to J in your notebooks. Now, before we start, let's discuss these questions with your teacher as well. Think about it and tell the teacher answers to these questions. Now, what happens to Gerald's mother during the chaos at the end of the lunch? What do you think is the answer? Yes, Gerald's mother was soaking wet after the whole incident. Margot was throwing water at the scorpions and that water missed the scorpions and rather hit the mother. And the mother was gasping and unable to speak. She was wet all over. Why does Gerald stay away from the family in the afternoon? He stays away from the family in the afternoon because he knows that they blame him and he doesn't want to go see them and he doesn't want to be scolded once again. What are the repercussions of the incident? Repercussions, remember, it means what are the results of this incident, what happened afterwards. Well done. What happened afterwards was that Larry became scared of the matchboxes for the rest of his life, and Gerald was stopped from exploring the world of the animals, and his mother decided to get him a tutor so he would be busy and would not be running around. Now, why do you think that this chapter is called The World in a Wall? This is your opinion. Give me a logical reasoning and answer. It is called The World in a Wall because Daryl describes a whole world of animals which is living in that wall. There are so many different creatures living together. So there is a whole world outside on that wall. Have you ever explored a wall and thought that, wow, it has a whole world living inside? Amazing. Now work with your friends as well and fill this diagram and find out the creatures in the story that are prey and the predator. Now take total of 25 minutes and complete this task in your notebooks, and the teacher will tell you how to submit it. Best of luck! Well done, students. Now that you have completed page number 6, let's move on to page number 7. Exercise A, question number 2. You have to answer the following questions with reference to the context. I completely forgot about my exciting new captures. Who forgot about it and what it distracted him? Why did he capture the creatures? And where were the captured creatures kept? What happens to next? Now take 10 minutes to answer these questions in your textbooks, and then the teacher will ask for your answers. Now let's check whether you have answered it correctly or not. Who forgot and what distracted him? Yes, Gerald totally forgot about the scorpions and lunch distracted him. Why did he capture the creatures? Because he was curious to see the scorpions grow up. Where were the creatures captured? Yes, the creatures were captured in a matchbox. What happens next? Larry opens the matchbox by mistake. Scorpions all crawl out and there is complete pandemonium and chaos. Everybody started screaming and panicking. Everybody is trying to get rid of the scorpion. Somebody is throwing water on it. Somebody is running and screaming. And that is what happens when the scorpions are released. Now students, after completing all the work, here is your homework. There are 2 homeworks over here on page number 6. Question number 1, part A to E, we have done and discussed most of these questions in the classroom, and the homework 2 is completing question number 1 of exercise B. Now the teacher will tell you when you are supposed to submit your homework and how to submit your homework. Please work on time. Before we sign off, let's check whether we have understood today's lesson or not. Now tell me, what are the 3 phases used to describe the scorpions? And how does Gerald feel about the scorpions? Yes, he likes them. They are his favorite. And summarize the funny incident in the story. Now that is up to you. You have to summarize it in your own words and tell your teacher. Have a great day, guys. Well done. You have done a great job.